Well, here we are. Here's the first video on Christmas Day 2020. It is the 25th of December, and I figured I should just make a video today. I got my coffee, I got my microphone, and I'm getting ready to do this video. Okay, so this video is going to be covering input gain. But we're not going to talk about how to properly set, like what the exact proper input level is. We're just going to look at what the different gain settings sound like. Okay? So, first of all, every mixing console has a certain spot your input gain is supposed to be set to. And you need to look at what type of metering you have in your console. You need to look at the manual to see what it says. And you need to look at what their console, whatever the console you're using, is designed to be set to. That input gain is designed to be set to a certain spot. So the console that I'm using is Waves LV1, Waves of Motion LV1. And it's going to be the easiest for these videos because I can just show you the actual mixing surface. So let's go ahead and take a look. If I look off to the right, that's because that's where where OBS is, the screen that it's on. So let's go ahead and switch over to LV1. Okay. So here is LV1. And I'm just changing a camera angle quick. This is the actual desktop. So this is all live. This is not planned. So, yeah, bear with me for just 1 second. Okay, let's see if I can make this work somehow. There we go. So, what you do for LV1 is you go ahead and you just go ahead and pull up. It's right here. I already have it open. So let's go full screen. So this is LV1 right here. I'll transition over. So right here is my Digigrid D. This is your input. This right here is my headphone volume. This one down here is would be if I had a reference monitor plugged in, which I do for broadcast. Like I'll have a reference monitor plugged in for that when I'm doing broadcast. But for today's purposes, right here is my input meter on the Digigrid D. I'm going to transition back to LV1. Okay, so in LV1, oh good, you can see the cursor. Okay, so here's my input channel number 1. You can name them whatever you want to name them. Let's just do a quick overview. So you've got your setup page. This is where you assign your devices. This is the computer that I'm capturing to. This computer is one that I built in 2018, actually. So I like to kind of like name my host computers as the year that it was the most updated in. So I have one that's like, I have a Mac Mini called Mac Mini 2020. This is 2018. This is the server. This is what does all the processing on the audio. I have one server right now. I only own one right now, but eventually, someday, I'll have multiple ones. So this is where you would select, this drop down right here is where you would select a server. This is where you would have control surfaces. MyMon is a app for running your monitors, then a Mackie controller and a MIDI controller. You can do, in rack A, you could do 8 devices, B, another 8 devices. So you could have 16 I/O devices. I have the Here Technology Dante bridge, which is 64 channels, 64 inputs and outputs. So imagine if you had 16 of those. 64 times 16 is a lot. Okay? I'm using the Digigrid D right now as my interface just for this video today. And I just have that assigned right in there. You can name it what you want to. So you can name it whatever you want it to there. This is nothing. This is an interface I have that if I had it plugged in, I would be able to use that as an I/O device. It's I think it's Tascam US 1200. Yeah, discontinued for a while, but it works. You could totally, if you wanted to, you could use that as your I/O device. So you could use it as talkbacks or whatever you want to do with it. However, there is latency because it uses USB, so you got some latency going on. Let's go back to Mixer 1. Right now, as you can see, I'm in 16 channel mode, just because I don't need more than that for this video, but I will switch it over to 64 during the video. So I got 1 through 16, nothing there, nothing there. No subgroups, but 8 effects. And no monitor mixes. But you could do 7 effect sends and a reverb if you wanted, or 4. Like a typical bar band would be 4 wedges, and that would give you 4 effects you could do. Master, you have 8 matrix outs, your cue, talkback, and left right. This is actually a master level for my headphones that I'm listening to. Talkback as an additional input you could do. You got 16 links, which I pretty much use every single one of these every session. I lay it out as kick, snare, toms, metal stuff, bass guitar, guitar, acoustic, keys, lead singer, background singer, and then maybe drums, band, vocals, and effects. That's one thing you could do. Anything you want to do with that. These are just your DCAs. It also has some advanced features too that you can do with it. It can do like DCA spills and such, and you know, it's pretty cool. Let's go back here. Channel 1. One new feature with version 12 is you can set channel color. So you can pick a color. Now it's red. That's very powerful because, okay, let's do that. And then we'll go one more over and we'll do that. So now, the all page was never useful for me, but now it is because I know what my color code is that I do for when I set up a console. So now when I'm on the all page, I can actually look and see and know what I'm looking at, where if it was all one color in the past up until version 12, it wasn't of any use for me. I'm sure other people have found it very useful, but for me, it was just never useful. Anyway, it's just, this new feature is awesome. So let's go back to our channel 1. Another cool feature they added was if you click new, that opens a brand new one with completely blank, a new session. Okay, let's go back here. Change it to a color I'm used to. For drums, I always do red. Although this is a talkback or just a voiceover, so I always do white for vocals. Let's change this to, so a couple things I always look at when I'm building a session is you do your system inventory. Then I usually do DSP optimized and then entire mixer aligned. And then I usually choose however many channels I need. And then these are some hotkeys you can do for virtual sound check. You could do right here. So if you have that, now when you go back to here, when you tap on that, it'll change your input sources. So then I could go here, choose that, go to B, and then I could just have, let's not do that. Let's go here. And then what I'll do here is that. So now, when I go to here, let's see, routing. Input A, input B. So now if I hit flip A, B, because I left this microphone on there for source A or B, it'll stay. But see how that one changed to the computer? Nothing. The computer. Okay, let's go back to A. So now let's get into what this video is actually about. Input gain. Okay, so consoles are designed to be operated at a specific input level. And then you want your fader to live around unity. That's how they're designed. Now, I use the DigiGrid D for talkbacks, And also, my use for it in the live world is talkbacks, and then I also will patch in like house music or outboard reverb units, which is a lot of fun. I have a SPX 90 and a Yamaha Rev 5, which I like the outboard reverb on those things. So whatever's in those, I like to patch that in because then I don't have to burn up as much DSP, but I also have reverb, and it's really cool. So I'm bringing back some old school while running it in there. So in LV1, you want to try to keep your inputs around where it's just hitting the yellow, if I understand it correctly. Okay, so right around 1 2 1 2 1 2. This preamp has a certain level it needs to live at, and LV1 likes to be at a certain point. I don't want to give to like say this is how it's supposed to be too much. That's not the point of this video. These videos are all about comparing different things. So I'm going to talk at a normal volume. Let's go to a super low input gain. And what I'll do is I'm going to switch over to the DigiGrid D. So as you can see, I'll try to gently move the camera. Okay. 1 2 1 2 1 2. See how it's just hitting -6? Let's bring that way down. 1 2 1 2 1 2. It's going to get really soft, but can you hear how my voice does sound different at a low volume? Okay, and then I'll transition 1 2 1 2. Look at right in here. 1 2 1 2 1 2. I have super low. I'm going to bring it down some more. You may not even be able to hear my voice now. You probably have to crank it up. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Hey 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 hey. Now I'm going to bring my gain way up. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. I'll switch over. Get ready to turn the volume of your headphones down. 1 2 1 2 1 2. Hey 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 hey. 1 2 1 2. Do you see how it just sounds different now? Lots of S's. Now if I bring it back down to a more realistic level, 1 2 1 2 1 2. Hey 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 hey. So that's just a comparison of input gain. 1 2 1 2 1 2. Test 1 2 1 2. As you can hear, it sounds dramatically different. Then I'll bring it back down a little bit. Hey 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 hey. 1 2 1 2. Test 1 2 1 2. Bring it back up a little bit higher. 1 2 1 2 1 2. And yeah, 1 2. Hey 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 hey. So I mean that's a. Hopefully I didn't overload your headphones too much. Hopefully it was a good indication of the different input levels. 1 2 1 2. Hey 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 hey. Test 1 2. Now on the DigiGrid D, I've found that the input level, if you have it softer, it seems to be warmer. But if you bring it up higher, it gets a little bit crispy and crackly. And it's really all about making it sound good. Do you hear my voice just distorting now? 1 2 1 2 1 2. Now let's bring it down. And yeah, so 1 2 1 2. Hey 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 hey. Hopefully this video is gonna be useful for someone, for anyone really. Just getting your input gain where it needs to be is a big deal. It really is. Everything starts at your input level. If you don't get your input level correct, nothing else in the console is going to function correctly. If you have it way too low, your compressors, your gates, your EQs won't respond right. If you have it too high, they're not going to respond right. So take a look at what your manual says. Read through that thing, find out what your console needs to be at, and run your input gain to that level. Now, that's an average. That isn't 24/7. It has to sit at, for example, -12, -18. That's your average level. So just, play around with your input gains. See what sounds you come up with. It's pretty fun. So everything after your input level is affected. So we've got the mixer window's up. Let's look at our rack. So 1 2 1 2. I do have a pretty strong input gain from what it says here, the dynamic section. 1 2 1 2. So every single thing is affected by the input level. So, for example, let's bring our compressor down. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Let's drop this thing way down. Okay, so now you can really hear it smashing. Let's bring our input gain down really low. 1 2 1 2. Hey, 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 hey. I hope you can hear this on your headphones. I can barely hear it. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. That's a little better. Hey, hey, hey. So let's bring our threshold back up. As you can see, there's a difference in sound. So 1 2 1 2. Input gain affects it. 1 2 1 2 1 2. Hey, 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 hey. 1 2 1 2. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Hey, 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 hey. 1 2 1 2 1 2 2 2 2 2 2 2 1 2. Hey. So just 1 2 1 2. Play around with your input gain. See what you can come up with for. See how it's sounding different as my gain goes up. It's getting more crispy, but now when I back it off, it's warmer. It's crazy. It's amazing how that input knob affects it so much. 1 2 1 2. Hey, 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 hey. Yes, it does sound a little different because it's louder now that I'm turning the gain up, but it also is affecting the tone of it. I don't have smart set up here, so I'm not able to show any like what smart would look like with it, but yeah, so your input gain does affect the sound of the channel. It affects the sound, and then it also affects how much level's coming out. It affects everything. So let's switch over to a 64 channel console, or we can do 32. Robert Scoville has a lot of really good information on this, but I'm just going to do a quick demonstration of his thought process. So I'm going to have an audio drop for a second. Okay, I should be back. When it changes, see you got this DSP meter changed to red. When you change the configuration from 16 to a higher channel count, you get an audio drop, and it has to reconfigure things a little bit. Okay, so not to get too far into this one, you get your input gain to where it needs to be. We'll just gain it up a little bit more. 1 2 1 2. Hey, 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 hey. 1 2 1 2. Okay. I hope that it's really obvious the difference in audio quality that you're hearing at different gain levels. So Robert Scoville he was Tom Petty's sound man. He has his own YouTube channel, The Lab. So check that out. It's really good info. He usually does a live stream every couple weeks or so. Really great info. So something he talks about in there is when you get your input gain to where it's supposed to be for that high resolution sound is what he calls it, and then your faders are living around unity. One thing that he said, this is him saying it, not me, so I'm going to try to say it as close to how he said it. When you bring up your gain on, say, a kick drum, for example, it comes in way too loud. But you want to keep your fader around unity. So how do you fix that? What he does is he goes in and he sets in his group section. Let's just go to right here because it's bigger. Over on the right side, look on the right side underneath output, if you can see my mouse. If you go down and assign it to group 1 and take it out of the left right, the sound will disappear for a second, so it's going to be completely dead. One, two, 1 2 1 2 1 2. Okay, so he says to run it into a subgroup. He calls them submasters. That's his term for it. So now I put my fader at unity, but it's ripping our heads off through the PA. So the way he does it, his approach is he goes over to his subgroups and he pulls the subgroup down and it turns it down. You see that? So now he has a submaster is what he calls it. So now he can turn it down, but then he can still mix with his faders sitting right around unity, plus or minus. Instead of the faders being way down, like for example, way down to -20, now you can keep them up here around unity and not hit the crowd so loud that it just hurts. So there's a lot of stuff that can be done. So I'll bring this back up. I really hope that I didn't have extreme volume differences in this video. I hope that you've been able to see and hear the differences in the tonality of my voice at different gain levels. And I hope this video is useful for you. I will have a lot more content coming. I'm going to get into what different knob settings do on different things. I'm not going to do this is how you're supposed to do it or anything like that. I'm just going to demonstrate what different compressor levels will do, what different knob settings will do, what attack and release will do on a compressor or a gate. So I hope you guys enjoy these videos and come on back and check out more videos as I release them. Thanks a bunch.